All right, we're about to unpack one of the most powerful and systematic arguments ever written, the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans. We're going to trace his logic step by step to see how he builds this absolutely world-changing case.
We have to start right here because this one sentence, well, it's not just an opener, it's the engine for the entire letter. Paul's throwing down a gauntlet. He's making this huge universal claim that he believes applies to absolutely everyone, Jew and Greek, which pretty much covered his whole known world. The rest of the letter, that's him proving this statement. So, who is this guy, Paul? Well, he's a fascinating figure. He was once a violent persecutor of this new Christian movement, and now he's its biggest champion. And he's writing this letter to a community in Rome, the very heart of the empire, a group of people he's never even met. So this isn't some casual note. It's a meticulous, almost lawyerly case for the core of his beliefs. And this gets to the absolute heart of it. The whole letter is really an answer to one massive question. How can any human being be considered righteous, being right standing before a perfect God? It's like we're all in a cosmic courtroom. And Paul's answer is completely radical for his time. It's not about what we do, it's all about what we believe. Okay, so here's how Paul starts to build his case. And it's brilliant, really. Before he even hints at his solution, he has to convince every single person listening that they actually need one. And he does this by building this airtight case that all of humanity, with no exceptions, is facing the exact same fundamental problem. Now check out how he does this. It's so methodical. First, he turns to the Gentiles, the non-Jews. He says, look, you can see God's power just by looking at creation, but you chose to worship other things instead, so you're without excuse. Then he pivots to his own people, the Jews. He says, hey, we were given God's specific law, but did we keep it perfectly? Nope, so we're also inexcusable. You see what he just did? He completely leveled the playing field. And this leads to his bombshell conclusion. In Paul's argument, there is no moral high ground. Nobody gets a pass. The problem of sin, of falling short of God's standard, is universal. It's the shared human condition. We are all in the same boat. So you might be thinking, if the law can't save you, what's it even for? And Paul's answer here is just revolutionary. He says the law works like a diagnostic tool. Think of it like an MRI. That scan can show you a problem with perfect clarity, but the MRI itself has zero power to cure you. The law, Paul argues, gives us the knowledge of sin. It defines the problem, but it can't fix it. And that brings us to the pivot. This is the turning point of the entire book. After establishing this universal problem, this bad news for everyone, Paul finally unveils his radical solution. This is where the whole argument shifts. Now, to get what he's saying, we've got to wrap our heads around this one key word, justification. This is a legal term, which is so important. It doesn't mean you're suddenly made into a perfect person. It means you are declared righteous in that cosmic courtroom. It's a change in your legal status, a verdict of not guilty, that Paul says is a free gift, not something you could ever earn. This right here, this is the headline. This is the thesis statement for the whole book. Paul is saying that a person's right standing with God comes through faith, completely apart from their ability to follow the rules. In a world built on religious performance, this was an absolutely earth-shattering idea. So how does this actually work? Well, Paul gives us this powerful analogy, a tale of two figures who represent all of humanity, Adam and Christ. He argues that through Adam's one act of disobedience, a universal problem, condemnation, entered the human story. But in a perfect parallel, through Christ's one act of obedience, a universally available solution, justification, is now offered to everyone. Now, Paul is a master arguer, and he knows exactly what his audience is thinking. He anticipates the objection. He basically asks, okay, Paul, wait a minute. If we're saved by this free gift, this grace, and it's not about what we do, well, does that mean we can just go on sinning all we want so we can get more grace? And his response is immediate. It's emphatic. God forbid, by no means. He completely rejects that idea. For Paul, being justified by faith isn't a license to sin. It's the very thing that sets a person free from sin's power. And this perfectly sets up the final section of his argument. So what's the point of all this deep theology? I mean, how does this actually play out in real life? Well, that's where Paul goes next. For him, being declared righteous isn't just some abstract idea. It's a change in reality that completely transforms how you live and how you treat other people. The very first implication is a total shift in identity. Paul describes it as a change of allegiance. He says, you were once enslaved to sin, but now, because of grace, you're free. But it's not a freedom to just do whatever you feel like. It's a freedom from one master so that you can willingly become a servant to a new one, righteousness. And this has massive implications for community. Paul uses this famous metaphor of an olive tree. The root, he says, is God's promises to Israel. Some of the natural branches, people from Israel, were broken off. But now wild branches, the Gentiles, have been grafted right into that same tree through faith. His point is clear. It creates one new, unified people, and neither group has any room to feel superior to the other. So what does this new community actually look like? Paul gets incredibly specific and practical. This isn't just theory for him. It has to translate into tangible actions. Things like genuine love, real empathy, radical peacemaking. This, he argues, is the real-world evidence of a community that's truly been justified by faith. And then he just brilliantly boils all of these ethical commands down to one ultimate principle. He says that love fulfills the entire law. For Paul, true righteousness isn't about meticulously checking off a list of rules. It's about actively loving other people. That, he says, is what the law was pointing to all along. He ends his massive argument with this incredible crescendo of confidence. The foundation for living this demanding new life of love is this unshakable security. He says that because you've been justified by faith, nothing in all of creation can separate you from God's love. It's the ultimate anchor. And so, after nearly 2,000 years, Paul's argument leaves us with a really provocative question. In a world that so often measures our worth by our performance, our achievements, our works, how does this ancient case for a righteousness that's a free gift, how does that challenge our modern ideas of justice, of merit, and what it really means to be a good person? That's a question worth thinking about.